Hi, today we are going to review a book named The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. If you're into literature, you already know this book exists because it's the only novel written by Oscar Wilde and it is a very interesting read. I am reading this book for the Nerd Fighter book club on Goodreads. The story begins when Basil, an artist, introduces his friend Dorian Gray to his another friend Henry and shows them the picture of Dorian that he has painted. And Dorian really likes this picture, and for the first time he thinks that he is going to get old and he's going to lose his youth and beauty. He wishes at that moment that it would be very nice if he gets to stay young and the picture gets to get old in his place. Which surprisingly comes true because it's fiction. As the story proceeds, we find that Dorian is now friends with Henry also, and Henry is giving Dorian some reckless advice. And this puts Dorian in a situation where he has to choose between whether he should take bad advice from Henry or not. And Dorian decides to take bad advice from Henry because Henry's advice are more easy. Henry advises him to act on the temptations and don't hold back because he's gonna live only once and he's gonna be young for just some time and he should enjoy it as much as he can. So Dorian meets this young lady named Sybil Vane who is an actress, and Dorian falls in love with her. Dorian wants his friends to meet Sybil Vane and invites his friends to a play in which Sybil Vane is playing. On the day of play, Sybil Vane doesn't perform very well, which breaks Dorian's heart in a very weird manner because Dorian considers that she is not actually the person he was in love with because she no longer possesses that beautiful skill of acting. After the play, Dorian breaks up with Sybil Vane and goes back home. As Dorian goes back home that night, he finds out that the portrait has a weird, cruel smirk on its face. And the portrait has changed. Later that day, Henry visits Dorian and tells him that Sybil Vane has committed suicide. And Dorian understands this very clearly, that Sybil Vane has committed suicide because of him and he's the reason why she lost her life. And this makes him sad for just a little while and he moves on quickly because Dorian was advised by Henry in a certain way which was surprisingly reckless again. Dorian, after this, indulged in various immoral criminal activities and is obsessed with this book which he kind of thinks that preaches him how to live his life, and he follows this book which is a symbolic representation, of course. With each passing crime Dorian commits, the picture gets kind of an reflection of that crime. The picture gets uglier and uglier and the picture becomes a picture of Dorian's soul. As the time passes, the effect of time doesn't play any significant role on Dorian's body but plays a very significant role on the picture. The picture kind of gets old and Dorian stays young and beautiful and untarnished by the experience of immoral, sinful crimes that he commits. The story, despite of being very simple, explores many interesting themes such as picture of Dorian Gray is the same good old-fashioned fight between good and evil. It is the kind of story in which the triumph of good over evil is portrayed typically. Another interesting subject shown in the book is youth. Youth is portrayed as the pinnacle of our lives. And it is similar to what we see even today. In today's society, youth is placed on pedestal, youth is glorified. People undergo knives and whatnot to get the look of youth for as long as they can. The idea of importance of youth is projected in our lives by society in a way that we, during our childhood, feel like that we're getting ready for something. We're getting ready for youth and youth is the life, and after youth we are given the idea that everything fades away, which is not correct, of course. Life is a nuance of all ages and all kind of experiences which we get from various ages, from childhood to old age. Another thing in the book is morality. Morality is expressed in a very interesting way in this book because the crimes that he considers are crimes. They are of course immoral, but the projection of his promiscuity as immoral is something I do not believe is right. I do not think that his visiting those dark places, that is brothels basically, and his having a lot of lady friends and enjoying his life and his youth in a promiscuous way is something that is immoral, but his disregard towards the people he's associated with during these course of events is immoral. The way he treats people, the way he breaks heart, and the way he does not regard other people's feelings and emotion is something that is immoral, not his promiscuity. So that is the thing that I would like to talk about, the morality of the story. Another thing is that morality of the story definitely comes along with the crimes that he commits. He commits a hell of a lot of crimes in this book, and those crimes are of course immoral, but promiscuity is not. Another important thing that the book's expressing very neatly is looks. Looks are considered as the mirror to the soul of the person in many cases, but which is not of course true. Dorian looks perfect, he is a gorgeous young man, but from the inside he's corrupted. His soul is corrupted, his ideologies are corrupted, his conduct towards other people is corrupted. So this kind of portray of looks is something we come across in our life. We hear this quotation a lot of time that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And that is true with people. We cannot judge people by their cover, especially when there is so much available these days to alter their looks and so much available to kind of put on any kind of exterior that we want. That is not going to be the exact representation of what lies within. So the main theme of looks over here is telling us that all that glitter is not gold. Friendship is also a very important theme of the book. We have a group of friends that are portrayed throughout this book in a specific manner. Dorian has these two friends, one of which is the artist Basil, another one is Lord Henry, and both of them serve a different kind of purpose in his life. Lord Henry and Basil both have a different kind of frame of friendship in Dorian's life, which we can experience in our life as well. When we have multiple friends, we know what kind of friend will comfort in which kind of situation. For example, here Dorian finds comfort when he needs a real wise and good advice. He finds comfort in Basil's association, whereas when he actually needs some advice that is going to comfort his soul and going to reveal him from his sin and corrupt behavior, he goes always to Lord Henry. And in fact, he actually ignores Basil on those days when he is feeling corrupt and needs comfort to feel good about himself, that it's okay, all the crimes that he's committing, all the sins that he's committing, all the immoral acts that he's committing are not a big deal. In those conditions, he approaches Henry instead of Basil. So this portrayal of different kind of friendship with different kind of people is very interesting to see in this book, because we all have those kind of friends who we approach in different situations. This book is a very good example of symbolism in literature. We can find a lot of symbolism. The book is basically based on a symbolic picture of Dorian's soul, which is one of the major examples of symbolism in the book. Here, the picture represents the soul of the protagonist, where the soul gets tarnished and the soul gets uglier with every conduct of bad behavior or crime or sinful act. Similarly, there is another important symbolic representation here from which Dorian derives his corrupt behavior, which is this yellow book which he reads. It signifies something that gives him an idea of the way he should live his life, or the way he chooses to live his life. Another interesting fact about this book is that when this book was published, it was considered immoral because of the undertones of homosexual and homoerotic nature. I didn't find any kind of homoerotic stuff in here or any kind of graphic stuff in the book, but yeah, there was certain undertones of two men talking about each other quite affectionately. Actually, one man talking about another man quite affectionately. So that was all that I could gather from this book, which was not even offensive in my opinion. I don't know about the opinion of the people in late 18th century, of course. I don't know about them. Oscar Wilde himself lived a very scandalous life in which he was quite, no, he was not. lived a very scandalous life. Oscar Wilde himself lived a very scandalous life where he had a series of homosexual lovers which landed him into jail and which kind of tarnished his image. That was the reason why people were afraid to find this undertones of homosexuality and homoerotic nature in the book, which in turn made them feel like this book is corrupt and this book is immoral. In fact, the most interesting fact about this is that when the book was criticized for the content, Oscar Wilde wrote this preface in response to the criticism in which he writes that the art is not the innermost thought of the artist but the reflection of the thought of the observer, which is interestingly true today because nobody finds this book offensive today, and maybe some people do, but it is again innermost thought of the observer or the reader, which is representation of the sin that they commit or they do not commit, whatever. Another interesting thing about the book is it is filled with quotes. My personal favorite character in this book is Lord Henry, surprisingly, because I think he is someone who is quite reckless with his advice but not actually committing any kind of serious crimes himself. The dialogues are very interesting since Oscar Wilde was a playwright. The dialogues in this book are very interesting and very funny. You can find a lot of quotes, though I have kind of love and hate relationship with quotes. I'm not sure whether I love quotes or hate quotes because they can be taken out of context, of course. So I found really interesting quotes in this book, and you'll find those interesting quotes in this book too. But the most interesting fact about these quotes is that all the interesting and the most interesting quotes amongst this book is actually coming from the bad advice from Lord Henry to Dorian, and apparently that's what corrupted him. So yeah, it's ironic. The ending of the book is the typical triumph of good over evil. The way it ended is something very interesting to see because in the end, I'm not going to ruin the ending for you, but I'm going to just say that in the end, everything falls into place. That's what I can tell you about the ending. So, yeah, this is my review for the Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because it was interesting to read. I would recommend this book to anybody who enjoys reading classics or anyone who is in the beginning mode of reading classics, because this book is considered as classic. However, it is not as intimidating as classics are generally considered. So it's a good place to start classics with. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye.